I'm going to present today this seminar from science to spirituality, and it's nothing new, but still it's presented in a new way, probably something logical and rational. So why I kept this name? Because people think there's a gap. Science is somewhere, spirituality is somewhere. We tend to think like that. Generally, scientific and academic world, they don't have so much faith in spiritual things. They consider it as metaphysics or maybe mythology, something like that. Maybe parapsychology, parasciences. And when it comes to spirituality, spiritual people generally don't like to think about science because they think science is rational, logical. Spirituality, you need faith and all these kind of things. But if you read science proper, if you do research, and if you read with the proper perspective, with an open mind, spirituality and science, you will understand that both supplement each other. And that's what I'm going to show you today. Why? Because as students, all of you have some time to understand these things. Afterwards, when you enter life, real life, you might not have time to think all these things. Life is hard. It's fun, but it's hard also. So it's a good start now. I also started these things in my college. So my whole point is, give it a thought to all these things. Don't dismiss it. This is an age when we don't think about all these things. But what I'm going to do is give you some food for thoughts so that you can go back, research, see on net, Google, and understand those things. I'll show you many things if you want to note down and then later see on the net. You should have a look. I will tell you what you can see, what you can understand further. Okay. So, all the great thinkers of religion and philosophy, they have always talked about soul and God. Who am I? That's the question. That's the foremost question of all philosophers and religious thinkers. Buddha, Confucius, Chinese philosopher, Lao Tzu, Indian saints, Eastern, Western philosophers, everybody asks this question, who am I? Now, you might think, what's this question? But many philosophers and many religious thinkers have asked this question, who am I? There has to be some validity and some depth in this question. In fact, this question matters. This is the first question we should be asking, who am I? It doesn't make any sense to lead your entire life and then you don't know who are you. You might think you know who are you, but when you start thinking about this question, there are many things to be think about and debate and also argue about. So they have talked about soul or consciousness, who am I, and God. And then there is theology, theosophy, so many philosophers have talked about. But the question here is, why these people were talking about soul and God? Everywhere, all around the world, it's not just India, it's not just East, all around the world, all religious thinkers, all philosophers were talking about soul and God. Why? Everybody, everywhere, at all times cannot be wrong. It cannot be a conspiracy theory that, okay, fine, these bunch of people are talking about God and soul, they are crackpots, they are like useless people. It's not like that. And all ages, even in Renaissance, Enlightenment, we all know, even before that, people have been talking about this. Why? Because they understood only by understanding soul and God, you can have three things. Otherwise, these three things are not available in modern civilization. And the first is happiness. They argued that if you don't know yourself, you can't be happy. If you don't understand you are soul, you are not this body, you can't be happy. And it's very simple to understand. You see, all these things, you don't need science to understand. You need a little common sense. That's philosophy all about. But it is also said, common sense is uncommon. It's also said like that. We don't generally think about this. But if we think we are this body, we will not be happy. Why? Because it is said by one of the philosophers that a beautiful person, he is fearful of ugliness. A rich man is fearful of poverty. A poor man is fearful of exploitation. A scholar is fearful of debates. An old man is fearful of death. Who is not fearful? A person who is after money, he is fearful whether I'll get money or not. And after you get money, you have fear whether I'll lose it or not. So all our happiness in this material world, all our happiness on bodily platform, it's full of fear. But when you know that you're not this body, your soul, you're not fearful, because now you're not concerned with money. Money is not a goal of life. You're not concerned with your bodily beauty, success, name, fame, because you know you're not this body. So your happiness is within. That's what Gita says. A person who is truly happy, his happiness is within. But most of the people here in this material world, here in this modern civilization, their happiness is outside. No? We are slaves of objects. We are slaves of our iPhone, our computers. We need them to be happy, no? If you don't have these things, you'll not be happy. If you don't have friends, you can't be happy. But a person who knows, I am not this body, mind, intelligence, I am soul, he can be self-satisfied within himself. That's what is all about religion and spirituality. Spirituality offers you happiness for free, which comes from within. Just like a child. If you see a child is happy now, within himself. He's playing, he's doing so many things. He doesn't need anybody. He can be just in a corner, a small child, he can be just in a corner, just laughing and have fun, like enjoying himself. Because he's experiencing happiness from within. And because his mind is not so contaminated and so many things are going in his mind. At the level of soul, when you understand you're not this body, you're like a child. You understand that I have nothing to do with this body. I am in this body, but I am not this body. You're not fearful of death. Now you are fearful of death because I think I am this. We are fearful that I might lose something. But when you know I am soul, I am not this body, well, that's okay. You see the point? So all spiritual philosophers, they came to this conclusion. At the level of this body, if you live by this thought that I am this body, we can't be happy, because your happiness is mixed with fear. And without the concept of God, also you can't be happy, because without God, we have a sense of insecurity. People who practice religion, people who practice spirituality, they understand that God is with me. That feeling is there. It's not just a feeling. It's not imagination. After they practice spirituality, they understand that this is reality. They can have realizations within their soul. So you see, it's simple. If you are alone somewhere, you will feel fear. No, you will feel insecure if you are alone. But now, suppose you have your parents, you feel secure. Okay, somebody is there with me. And if you can understand God is there with me, you can be anywhere on this planet yet feel secure. And that is why so many saints throughout the history, they were fearless. They gave up their life. Martyr, you know martyr, all this. Yeah, Christianity is all martyr. How can somebody give his life if there's nothing around? You can't do that. You have to be convinced beyond imagination, beyond reality, to give your life for something. So that is concept of soul and God. So without soul and without God, you have desires. When you have desires, your mind is not peaceful. You want this. When you're not at peace, you're not satisfied. When you're not satisfied, you're not happy. A simple logic. And another thing is, without the knowledge of soul and God, you can't have good character. You can have information, knowledge, but not character and wisdom. Morals. Science cannot give you morals. It cannot tell you what is right, what is wrong. It can give you your laptop, but it cannot tell you what to do with this laptop. How to use this. You can use a laptop to promote terrorism. You can use the same laptop to do science, to do something good. That's up to you. Fully up to you. Just like this auditorium. This is okay, fine. Science, we have this light, technology, so many things. This mic. Now it's up to you how to use this. So science cannot exactly tell you what is virtue. Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, they were talking about virtue. And that cannot be understood just by rationality and science, especially not science. How can you know what is right, what is wrong? That is decided by, you can say, scriptures, or some wise people who have led their life according to the dictates of some higher authority. And we understand that divine authority helps us to understand what is right, what is wrong. You see, the concept of God. God is omniscient, omnipresent. You know this, no? We define God like that. Omniscient, omnipresent, and omnipotent. So how to decide what is right, what is wrong? Many people decided something, this is right, but consequence was wrong. For example, communism, people thought it's good, it's nice, and Marx and all those things. But then there were so many after effects of communism, which were exactly not correct. So many people come up with so many philosophies, but who knows after 600 years what's the consequence? Because man is not omniscient. Einstein found E is equal to mc square. He was a genuine scientist. He wanted to benefit humanity. But then what happened? E is equal to mc square. What was the invention? Atomic bomb. And Einstein said he said, I found this equation. But after that Hiroshima Nagasaki bomb explosion, he said, that was a big mistake I did. That I found this equation. Because they used it in a wrong way. To destroy. Now you see the point. He couldn't really figure out whether this equation will give you good results or bad results. It gave bad and good both. He's not omniscient, but God is omniscient. And He gives us rules. You should do this, you should not do this. There is logic behind that. You might not understand now, but when you practice that, you will slowly figure it out. That these rules of right and wrong, morality, they are made by an omniscient person, and it will help the society to make it peaceful and happy. So these people thought that knowledge of soul and God will make your character and also goal of life. Now this Lao Tzu, he said, if you want to awaken humanity, then awaken all of yourself. If you want to eliminate sufferings in the world, then eliminate all that is negative in yourself. Truly the greatest gift you have to give is that of your own self-transformation. It's a beautiful saying. If you can't change yourself, you can't change this world. Simple. If you don't know how to make yourself happy, you can't make others happy. It's as simple as that. This is the goal of life. Goal of life is not just to become happy and have good character. Goal of life is to share this happiness by understanding the concept of soul and God, and give other people knowledge of what is good life, what is bad life. Manual of life. So, but here's the question. The question is this not working? How does it work? Okay, it works here. Is there any proof of soul and God? That's the question. Now we want proof. Everybody wants proof. We don't want to have blind faith. No. We don't want to become superstitious. None of us. Now these people talk about soul and God. We understand. And there's a logic behind it, I explained. But then you need a proof. Probably you need a scientific proof. Isn't it? We believe in science. But now here is a point. I'll show you the proofs of soul and God in this seminar. But before that, let me just tell you that everything doesn't have proof. That's also an assumption. A proof in a strictly scientific terms. Now science is what? Observation, experimentation, you know this, no? Experimentation, then hypothesis, then theory, and then you show this. Okay, fine. So everything need not have a logical, rational proof. There is something called as self-evident truth versus logical proof. Now, when you talk about soul, you talk about self-evident truth. Now what's the difference? Difference is, now I'll ask you and you think about it. When you feel hungry, do you need a proof? A scientific proof? I'm feeling hungry. Do you need? Anybody? You go to a scientist, well, I've come to have a proof whether I'm feeling hungry or not. Do my brain scan. You don't do that. When you're feeling hungry, you know that you're feeling hungry. You have hunger, isn't it? You don't need a proof for that. When you feel sleepy, you know you're feeling sleepy. Even if all the people of this world come together and convince you mathematically that you're not feeling sleepy, but then you have not slept for 2 days, and if they convince you mathematically and scientifically that your brain doesn't show that you're feeling sleepy, you've done scan and hormones and all these things, will you be convinced? You might tell them, well, let me sleep and then I'll become convinced. First, I need sleep to understand what you're saying. I can't understand, first of all. So sleep, hunger, thirst are self-evident truth. You don't ask proof for that. And you accept it. All of us accept it, no? That is called self-evident truth. What about love? Do you ask proof of love? Nobody asks that, no. It is said if you analyze love, it will vanish. You don't ask your friend who loves you, can you give me a proof? And your friendship is over, finish. That's it, finish. Proof of love? No. Love is self-evident truth. So all these things, sleep, hunger, love, they're self-evident truth. You don't need any proof for that. Okay, I'll ask you a question and you try to answer me. Do you know that you are present here? What do you say, all of you, students? Speak something. I don't like to give monologue. You know you're present here? You're sure? You're sure? You are there here? In this body? Isn't it? You're sure, no? Okay, fine. Can you prove to me that you are here? Can you prove that you are alive? That you're living? That you have consciousness within? Can you prove to me that you know yourself? Can you do that? For me, maybe you're a robot, a Terminator. Terminator. Maybe you're Genesis. Or maybe you're a zombie. You know zombie? Who knows? Can you prove that you are not a zombie, you're not Terminator, you are a conscious living being, you are sitting there on the chair, and within yourself you know, I am I. Can you do that? Yes or no? Tell me, come on, think about that. It is a valid question. People are thinking these things in consciousness studies. So that is why Thomas Nagel, he's a philosopher, West New York. He said, only a bat knows what it feels like to be a bat. Bat is hanging. Only he knows what it feels like to be a bat. You can never know by a scientific study. You can take a brain scan and everything, but you can never know what it feels like to be a bat and hanging upside down. You don't know. So this is self-evident truth. You never questioned your existence. Did you question? Never. You can't even question that in your dreams. In your dreams also you assume, okay, I am there. Science wants to question everything, okay. But you never questioned your existence. Science will never ask you, okay, so have a doubt whether you exist or not. In fact, there's a philosophy called that, like that, solipsism. You know this? There was a philosopher. He started doubting his own existence. He said, whether I am there or not, I don't know. So let me check out. So he was driving in a mountain, and he said, if I am not there, then who cares, And he just drove his car into that, that ditch, and his car fell down and he died. That's also philosophy like that. But nobody, except you're mad, nobody questions whether you exist or not. You understand self-evident truth? You see the point? So existence of soul is self-evident. That's the idea. I can't show you that you are soul and you're not this body. I can't show you have a consciousness. But you can know for yourself if you practice. If you practice, you can know for yourself. That is the role of practice. So when it comes to spirituality, in science first is understanding and then is practice. In spirituality and religion, first is practice and then is understanding. You practice something and then you can know within yourself. Yes, I am soul, I am not this body. It is a self-evident truth. Now, okay, now answer me this question. We are all wearing shirts now, these clothes. Daily you remove clothes and wear another cloth, new clothes, no? Isn't it? Do you ever doubt that you are these clothes? Do you ever doubt in your mind? Maybe when you go in the night and you want to remove your clothes and you think, my God, maybe I am my clothes, if I remove this I'll die. No, you don't doubt. This is a shirt, okay, remove, take another shirt. The shirt is there on your body 24 hours. By night, you're convinced you're not this shirt, isn't it? This is called self-realization. When you practice spirituality or religion with proper understanding, then you will be convinced this body is like a shirt. And you are sitting inside this body. Your consciousness separate from this body. Now that is self-evident truth and logical proof. Why I was telling you this? Because I can't show you that there is a soul and consciousness, but I can tell you the practice, and if you follow the practice, you can know for yourself. But at the same time, there are hints in science which can help you to understand or indicate there is something beyond this body, some consciousness. There are hints. Science can offer you hints. Science cannot show you something. It's not possible. Nobody can do that. So like suppose from Omaha you are going to Kansas City. So you have those signboards, isn't it? Okay, now this is, so Kansas is this many miles left. This is in this direction, this direction. Science can give you directions, some kind of conviction. Yes, there is something beyond this body. And then you have to practice. You have to know for yourself. That's a self-evident truth. I can feel hungry, but I cannot give my hunger to you. That's not possible. I can not give you food and then you feel hungry for yourself and then you say, oh, now I understand what is hunger. I can't make you understand hunger, no. I can't do that. I can't make a small child understand what is lust. I can't do that. He's just a 3-year-old child. You can't make him understand. When he becomes mature, he'll understand himself or herself, whatever. So, I'll give you hints from science. That's what we want now. For the existence of soul and consciousness. Okay, the first hint comes from consciousness studies. Now, consciousness studies is a branch of philosophy plus neurology plus psychology. So when all these three fields come together, they have this consciousness studies: philosophy, psychology and neurology. And people specialize into this and they are doing research. So consciousness studies, these people, you know what, we have this image in mind. This body is like computer, and a brain, a mind is like software. Is it? This is a machine. We are computers, Computers are same as this. And many computer scientists, Ray Kurzweil and many others, they like to equate human body with a machine and computers. And they said, they are like saying, they are predicting, after 50 years, your Apple will be more intelligent than you. Artificial intelligence, you know this? Your Apple will say to Dell, I am better than you. They are proposing that. But there is a problem. If you equate human body with machines, and if you say there is no consciousness is a useless phenomenon. We don't believe in this. It's just a machine. Brain is some neural networks. And we'll figure that out. And we'll imitate that in a machine. And machine will evolve by neural nets, artificial intelligence, and it will supersede humans. You know this concept, no? Concept of singularity. A point will come when machines will be more smarter than humans. Maybe more conscious than humans. They're trying to propose that. But many philosophers deny that. People who are doing consciousness studies, they have come to recognize there is a difference between machine and humans. No matter how much you make machines equal to humans, no matter how much you study brain and try to imitate it in machine, you will never come closer to humans. Why? Because there's a difference. And the difference is in consciousness. Oh, I think I have to go there. There's the first difference. Computers cannot fall in love. Isn't it? Your Apple doesn't fall in love with Dell. Or maybe IBM. It doesn't happen like that. It can never happen like that. So people who are studying consciousness, they say this analogy is not good. We are like machines. There's no consciousness. Because humans have something which can never be imitated by machines. Machines can never fall in love. This is the first characteristic of consciousness. Feelings. How do you put feelings in computers? And emotions, no? If you open a computer, there is just electronic circuits. Bits and bytes. That's what is happening there. Computers cannot fall in love. Computers cannot decide what is wrong, what is right. Cannot give you a decision. The decision is made by the person who is putting a software. Isn't it? And computers cannot think. You know this? Who is this? Anybody knows?
Kasparov.
Yeah, Kasparov. Garry Kasparov, chess champion. 1996, 1997, he played against IBM Deep Blue. This is Deep Blue computer. So MIT people, they made a computer Deep Blue, and it played a chess with Garry Kasparov, world champion, and he lost. Garry Kasparov lost. So IBM people and MIT people, they were thinking, yes, now we have proved that machines are more intelligent than humans, because chess is a game where you need to think. Isn't it? So they said, okay, fine. So machines are able to think. And recently, you know this Go, there's a game Go, AlphaGo. Their coins was that game. You don't know what Go game? You can search on the Google. So you go, we have chess, you have to think in chess, but that game Go, that needs a lot of intelligence, much more than chess. So they figured out a machine, AlphaGo. They made a machine, MIT people, recently. And that software, that machine, it defeated World Go Championship. It defeated him. So now they're convinced, okay, machines can think. But there's a problem there. People who are doing consciousness studies, they say, no, not so fast. Not so fast. You can't say machine can think. Why? Because there are two types of thinkings. One thinking is logical and rational. What computer uses? That's called brute force. You know brute force? Computers? Okay, fine. If this is yes, this is no. This is no, this is yes. You know, gates, logic gates, you know that, no? Computer uses this, that's all. So it's all circuits. But this is one type of thinking, logical. 1 plus 1, 2, 2 plus 2, 4, 4 plus 4, 8. Multiplication and addition, okay, you can do that by circuits. But there's another type of thinking which is called as intuitional thinking. So although these people, IBM and MIT people, they said our computers can do intuitional thinking. But it was far from that. You know why? I'll tell you why. What is this? Is this statement false or true? What do you say? Huh?
There's no statement at all.
Is this statement false or true? If you say true, it's false. If you say false, it's true. You just have a look. This statement is false. If it is true, then it is false. If you say it's false, this statement is false, then it becomes true. You see, you are it's a loop. You can't say anything. If you see the point, now when I give the statement to you, you laugh. But when I give this statement to a computer, to artificial intelligence, and if I ask it, okay, it is true or false, what that computer is going to do? What it's going to do? It will print true or false. Well, either it will hang up, you can't do anything, but definitely it will not laugh. It can't understand the implication of the statement. It will not laugh. So we have some intuition. We have an intuition. And that intuition is linked to our feelings. That's not there in computers. It's not there in computers. So, okay, I'll ask you one more question. A plus B is equal to B plus A. It's correct or wrong? Quick. Correct? How many say correct? Okay, fine. If you give this problem to a computer, A plus B is equal to B plus A, what computer is going to say? Correct or wrong? Wrong. What's going to say? It will hang. That's called halting problem. It can't come to any conclusion because computer doesn't understand intuitionally. For us, A plus B is equal to B plus A. Okay, it's correct. But computers, what it will try to do? It will try to put numbers there. 1 plus 2 is equal to 2 plus 1. 3 plus 2 is equal to 2 plus 3. Okay, it will keep on putting numbers. How many numbers are there? Infinite. So it will keep on calculating till infinite and no answer. This is called halting problem in computers. What is so easy for us is so difficult for a computer in at least some areas where you need intuition. That's called intuitional thinking, which is there with humans. And that is why these consciousness people, they said that symptom of soul is thinking, feeling and willing. Wherever you have consciousness, just like humans or soul, you should have thinking, feeling and willing. Wherever there is no consciousness, you don't have thinking, feeling and willing. You have electronic circuits, that's all. You understand? So it's very simple to understand. Anybody can know. This person feels, thinks or wills. To a robot, you can feed, go and touch that wall and come back. So that robot will walk, touch that wall, come back. Okay? You run, you go there and come back. And if I tell you, you should go and touch that wall and come back. In the middle of the way, you can think, why this guy is asking me to touch the wall? I'll not go. That's all, finished. Just it. You can change your decisions. That is called willing. Intentions. Humans have intentions. This is a problem in consciousness studies. No scientist, no artificial intelligence person, no computer scientist, they have any idea even how to begin to program thinking, feeling and willing in a machine. They have no idea. And even some scientists say that, it is not possible. We don't even know how to begin it. And it's a waste of time because there is something called as consciousness which cannot be made. It is a fifth element. earth, water, fire, air. And then fifth element is consciousness, which science doesn't understand, doesn't admit now. But we know. Consciousness studies, this gives a hint about that. And the next, this is Thomas Nagel, philosopher, New York University. He said, eventually I believe current attempts to understanding the mind or soul, mind is soul, at least for this seminar, by analogy with man-made computers that can perform superbly some of the external tasks a conscious being performs, will be recognized as a gigantic waste of time. He said, if you want to make a machine which thinks, feels and wills, you'll end up wasting billions of dollars. You'll not be able to do it. Because humans are humans. That's all. You can replace jobs, but you cannot replace consciousness. You can't do that. Okay, next hint comes from science of neurology and brain. We are separate from this body. There is something called as soul. We are soul. That comes from neurology and brain. Now this is, because I was a doctor, I practiced, I saw many coma patients. And I think you might have also seen, no? Yeah. So he's also a neurologist. He's one of our friends. So coma patients, you see coma patients, their brain is almost dead. Almost. So it's called as vegetative state, and so at least their upper brain, lower brain might be a little active, but upper brain is almost dead. No sensations, no feelings, nothing, That is coma. Okay, fine. So this is all like, he's a pretty bad shape, like all this EEG and everything. So people in coma, they lie down, they're there in coma for 5 years, 6 years, 20 years straight. And some of the patients, they come back. After 10 years, after 15 years, they come back. And interestingly, many coma patients, and I've personally seen one of 2-3 cases myself, they can hear. Hearing is active when you're in coma. Feeling is not there. Sensations are not there. You can't see, you can't smell, you can't taste. But hearing is active. In fact, there are many cases, I'm doing research in that, and I personally saw a patient of coma. There was a patient in our hospital. He was in coma, and I used to go and read Bhagavad Gita to him. I used to read Sanskrit verses to him. Just recite, sit and recite. So after 3-4 years, he came out of coma. And you know what first thing he said to us? He said, "Doctor, what Sanskrit verses you were chanting? I want to hear that again." Now, clinically, it should not be possible. His brain is not working. It can't perceive, but he can hear. That is why hearing is very important. That is why we have mantras. Mantras, all this, you chant. Because that is, hearing is the most important sense, even more important than seeing. Generally, we consider seeing is more important than hearing. No? We think like that. So if I give you a choice, do you want to be blind or deaf? What do you choose? No, there's a choice like that. Do you want to be blind or deaf? What do you choose? I'm definitely deaf. I don't want to be blind. Blind is like difficult, But according to scriptures, according to all religion, hearing is more important. That is why we chant God's names, we chant mantras and this and that. We hear. In fact, a person who is sleeping, you can wake him up by calling his name, isn't it? Just like our mother's mom, Or maybe they'll call Tim, John, Nancy, get up. And you get up. But if a person is sleeping, and if you touch him, he might not get up, like some people are like in very deep sleep. Even you throw them, they don't get up. Children are like that. So if you touch, you can't make people get up. If you put an incense to wake somebody up, will he get up? No, it doesn't work. And if you open his eyes like that, when he's sleeping, take his eyelid off. Will he get up? No, he doesn't see anything. But if you call him by name, you can. Of course, if you punch him, he might also do that and get up. But that's another thing. But if you call by name, even while asleep, he can hear. This is very active. Hearing is the most active sense. Even in coma, you can imagine, that is where all scriptures use the science of sound. Science of sound. Okay, so this is about coma. This gives us a hint that yes, this person, even his brain is dead, he can hear. That means his consciousness is working without brain. At least the hearing aspect. That means it is different from brain. Brain has hearing centers, but in coma, it's shut down. You see this? Brain death, it's a straight line. Another evidence from neurology comes from the cases of hydroencephalus. There are people with no brain. What do you do with them? Now, I read in my medical field, but I didn't think from this angle. But there are people with no brain. Now, there are arguments, I'll talk about that. But you see this? That's a normal scan of brain, anterior and lateral. This is a scan of this person, Roger Lewin. He's an MIT guy. MIT means he's a pretty intelligent person. He's not mentally retarded. And he is good intelligence, but he doesn't have brain. He got a headache. He went for a scan, and they said, "Guy, we're sorry, you don't have a brain. What to do?" Just fluid there. And there are many people like that, not just one. Now, generally, hydroencephalus patients, people who don't have brain, they die when they're children. But these people grew up, and how they manage, nobody knows. Science argues, well, you can see a thin layer there, thin layer. They say, okay, these people are using that thin layer of brain, but it's not an explanation. You can't use a thin layer because brain has gray matter and white matter. You know this? Gray matter, white matter. White matter has different function, gray matter has different function. This person doesn't have white matter at all. Now people are finding white matter has a different function altogether. It's not just to connect gray matter. So there are debates going on this, but it shows that consciousness can function without brain. In fact, brain is a limitation on consciousness. And that is the concept of liberation in philosophy and religion. When you're liberated, you don't need body, you don't need brain to work. You can work without that. You can go outside body. You can leave your body. You can go to China without visa. Just leave your body in meditation, go and come back. You can do that. There are yogis and saints who used to do that. And there are ordinary people who experience that. And that's the third evidence. But before that, Thomas Huxley, he was an evolutionist. He was the bulldog of Darwin, as we know, he was a person. He said, how is that anything so remarkable as state of consciousness comes about as a result of irritating nervous tissues is just as unaccountable as the appearance of jinn when Aladdin rubbed his lamp in the story. How consciousness comes about via brain, he says it's a mystery. We don't understand yet. And neither we will understand. Because consciousness is separate from brain. Now, this is Wilder Penfield, neurosurgeon. It's a famous... A neurosurgeon, he's like the father of neurosurgery. Isn't it? Wilder Penfield, father of neurosurgery. So he said, after a professional time spent trying to discover how the brain accounts for consciousness, people like to say consciousness coming from brain. It comes a surprise now to discover, during the final examination of the evidence, that the dualist hypothesis seems more reasonable of the two possible explanations. Dualist hypothesis means that there is a consciousness and brain separate. Consciousness is not a product of brain. We are not simply machines and machine is making some consciousness. No, it is different. Now these people are, after spending their whole life, they are coming to the conclusion there is soul. You can call as consciousness science, in spirituality call it as soul. It's the same thing. These people are coming to conclusion. And there is a third evidence comes from parapsychology. Now, this past life memories, There are many people who remember their past lives. Now, you might say, it's all bogus. But before saying that, better do some research. There are many scientists. Carl Stevenson, He did 2,000 cases of spontaneous reincarnation memories. These children, they could remember their past lives. I have seen patients personally from Sri Lanka, from Jaipur, and 3-year-old child, he was speaking Scottish English in India. First of all, Indians, their English is different, accent. And Scottish English, you can't imagine an Indian speaking Scottish English. You can't even understand that. It's a different kind of English. But he was speaking, 3-year-old child. Now nobody taught him. How do you explain that? So there's just one explanation. There's past life. And then that boy, we know him, he said, my mother lives in Scotland. So my mother lives in Ireland, somewhere, exactly, I forgot the place. And he said, this is my mother. He called his mother and he talked to her in Scottish English. And she could recognize that this is her child, because every mother understands, some things, some uniqueness of their children. She could understand the way he's speaking. And there's so many cases like that of past life memories. There's so many books written on that. Go and read these books. Life after death, life after life. I'm writing a book on that, on reincarnations. And these cases are studied scientifically. Case control studies. Researchers have done this research. They have removed the possibility of hallucinations. All these, if you say past life memories, maybe it's a hallucination, maybe it's imagination, maybe he's taught, brainwashed, programmed. Everything is over, and still you find many people who can remember past lives. What else evidence you want? And this Ian Stevenson, Children Who Remember Previous Lives, if you read this book, in the last page he writes, if this is not evidence of soul separate from body, which travels from one body to another body, I don't know how to define evidence. Then you have to give a definition of evidence first of all. What is evidence if this is not enough evidence? There are evidences in science, provided you want to look. Provided you don't want to shun it on the side, or you don't want to study this. It's all crap. You can always say that. It's crap. Don't believe. But my request is, go and have a look on these things and give a thought. And if it is true, you're not this body, your soul, you're missing your identity. You're missing a major thing in your life. You don't know who you are. That's what these philosophers and religious thinkers were talking about. And if you don't know who you are, you can never be happy. If you don't know who you are, how can you be happy? That's called identity crisis. And we are all in that, at least according to all religious thinkers, spiritual beings and philosophers. Okay, now this is a case. Go on Google and see this Pam Reynolds on YouTube. She has made a good documentary. Now she experienced out-of-body experience. I told you that if you're spiritually advanced, then you can leave your body, because you're not this body. You can do that. I've seen many yogis in Himalayas who can do that. I was there with them. And it's practice. But the point is, many people undergo this experience spontaneously. And that's called out-of-body experience. They leave their body and see their body from vantage point. Now this case is very interesting because many people have reported, I left my body, I got a heart attack, I left my body, went up and saw my body. And then saw many other things. But science was reluctant to accept that because it was not in a laboratory, Like people can just hallucinate, outside. I got a heart attack in the park and I left my body and saw something and came back. Who can believe that, Maybe some hallucination, maybe something. He's cooking up the story. But this case happened in Operation Theatre. It's a case control case. Now this female, she has, what's that? That's an angiogram. That's a brain blood vessel. And there's a clot there. There's a clot in the brain of this female. Understand clot? Clot. Now this clot can burst. There can be hemorrhage in her brain. She can go to paralysis. She can die. And this clot is at the base of the brain. If it is here on the top, you can cut this and take it out. Or laser, whatever. But it's in the base. So doctors were thinking, how to operate this female. Because you have to cut through the brain, right? Cut it and go and then take this out. But then if you go through the brain, you end up more bleeding. This brain is rich in blood vessels. So they did standstill operation. This is rare. Generally, you don't do this. But they had to do in a standstill operation means they reduce the temperature of brain, of body to almost like freezing. And then you stop your heart and lungs and you put that body on heart-lung machine. And for some 20-25 minutes, patient is practically dead. Practically, she's off. She's supposed to be dead. There's no blood to the brain and you have to operate. All blood vessels are okay. For some time, it's gone. Your metabolism is low because you have brought to freezing temperature. So cells do not go in gangrene. But there's a gap. You have to do operation in 25 minutes something. Exact time I don't know. So what happened was her heart was almost, it was beating, but then it was put on heart-lung machines. The blood is derooted in heart-lung machine. And this is her brain. This is her brain, EEG. Brain waves are isoelectric. They're almost, this is awake, this is normal, this is flatline. Brain wave is flatline. She can't hear, she can't do anything. She's practically dead for all practical purposes. Her lungs are flatline. They don't work. You have to put heart-lung machine and artificially you do that, pumping. And yet, while she was being operated, she said she left the body, she went up on the roof and she saw everything. And she explained the doctor's exact procedure of the operation. What instrument they used, what they were talking, and exactly what was happening in the operation. This is impossible. This, by present science, this should be impossible because you can't perceive, you can't hear, you can't do anything. In fact, when there's brain surgery, you put plugs also. Here, you put plugs. You can't anywhere here. But she can see, she can do everything. One, in the hospital I was working, one patient, she sued the doctor. She was operated on heart, she got a heart attack, so we were operating on that. And she said, she sued the doctor, you know why? She said, when I was being operated, you were flirting with the nurse. In operation theaters, it happens, you're talking to nurse and it's a long operation, 1 hour, and then you're talking complete nonsense, jokes. And she couldn't digest that. And they said, how do you know this? She said, well, I was seeing everything from the roof. I was hearing everything. She went to court. She did a case. She exactly repeated what they were joking, what they were saying, and actually she won the case. Somehow. Now, how do you explain this? What do you do? This is not hallucination. This is not schizophrenia. Even for hallucination, you need your brain working, But nothing is happening. So this case, Pambrinol case, it can overturn science. It can bring consciousness into science as a fifth element or sixth element, whatever you can say, which is different from matter. What we are, that consciousness. So have a look at this. Go on today. Go and see. She has made a very beautiful documentary, and she's a singer, still there. And when she talks, she'll tell you what happened exactly. So this is hint from neurosurgery about soul. So, okay, there are hints for consciousness, and you're not this body. But now, to understand your consciousness, you have to practice. You have to practice. Without practice, you can't understand. I told you, it's a self-evident truth. You have to know for yourself. But then, there is concept of God. Knowledge of soul without knowledge of God is incomplete. If you are eternal, There has to be intelligence or a being which is also internal, which is much powerful than us and which controls everything. There has to be somebody. So that we call as God. We call him God. Now, if you ask proof of God, many people have tried to give a proof. Theological, theosophical, rational, this and that, left and right. But you know what? You can't have a proof of God. I can't show you God. Nobody can do that. Nobody can mathematically prove to you. Hence proved. No, you can't do that. Because logically you can refute any logic. Nature of logic is that I can give you a logic, after 50 years some other person will come, he can refute that logic. That's logic. So, proof of God is not logical proof. To understand God, you need information. Just like to understand soul, you need self-evident truth. You need to practice. Similarly, to understand God, you need information. You can't do anything. You can't do science for that. And it's simple to understand. Suppose if I ask you, who is there in the next building? Can you know? How do you know who is there in the next building? How do you know that? Or how to know that? Who is sitting there in the next room? Somebody is sitting, but you have to know who is he. How do you know it? You do some equations, some experiment. You just go and ask, isn't it? Just go and ask. Information. You see the point? Information is different from a proof. You need information. That's what Aristotle said. For anything, there are 4 causes. You have read Aristotle? Anybody? There are 4 causes of anything. One is material cause, one is formal cause, final cause, and efficient cause. Now, for example, if you have a pot, material cause of pot is clay. What material it is made? No, clay. The formal cause is the plan. The formal cause of pot is the form. What's the form? Okay, the form is round or square or whatever. Okay, the plan. The final cause is why that pot was made. Maybe to carry water, maybe to carry sand or whatever, no? Or maybe for decoration. But efficient cause is who made that pot. Now, obviously, a potter, no? But who is that potter? Can you know by logic? You can know by logic? Who is the potter? Can you know by logic? You have to have information. What's his name? All other causes you can figure out by logic. Like this mic. So what's the material cause of this mic? Plastic and silicon, isn't it? That's there inside this, no? Silicon chips. And what is the final cause? What's the use of this? Speaking. I don't eat it. What is the efficient cause? Who made this? How do you know this? Who made this? Huh?
The label on that, like Sam.
Yeah, you have to have information. You can't figure it out by logic. That needs information. Existence of God needs information. It is not, you can't figure out by logic. Somebody has to tell you, who is God? God exists, that some hints can be given. But who is he? How is he? For that you need information. But there are hints for the existence of God in science. And there are 3 hints, and I'll just give you quickly. You just go and have a look on internet. First hint is from physics. He's James Gates Jr. He was nominated by Department of Energy as 95th speaker to present his work. He got an award, National Medical Science for Physical Sciences. He also made BBC documentary, and he was involved in the project Higgs. Higgs boson, you know this? The God particle? He was involved in it. That cyclotron and all that, he was involved in that. He's a big scientist, theoretical scientist. New York University. He's saying, by his research, he can find computer code inside string theory. You know strings? Have some idea of strings? Well, if you don't understand, it's a simple thing. You know what's molecules? Molecules? Fine? Everybody knows? In molecules, what you have? Electron, photons. And inside electron, protons, what you have? No, neutrons are neutron, electron, photons, they're together. What's there inside that? Subatomic particles. That is quarks, quantum particles, isn't it? Inside quantum particles, what's that? Strings. Strings. That's called string theory. They're trying to probe. They're trying to break. You break an molecule, there's an atom. You break an atom, there's electron, protons. You break an electron, proton, there are quantum particles. You break a quantum particles, there are strings. 10 raised to the power minus 32. That's the level. So this scientist, he's working at the level of strings. And he said, if you break a string, then beneath that there's a code. That's physics coming to conclusion. There is some kind of code written in reality all around us. And if there is a code, this means there is an intelligence. You don't have a code without an intelligence, no? To make a code, you need intelligence. And that's what scientists are appalled. Scientists are shocked what this guy has done his research into. So there is an intelligence. This gives a hint of existence of God. Second hint is from genetics. I do research in genetics. I'm a genetic researcher, and in spite of being a doctor also. So genetics give you a hint of existence of an intelligent being, because you have heard about genetic code. You have heard about that. There's a genetic code, isn't it? Code means there has to be a code maker. Code means a sequence which you can understand. You understand? Even if there is a code in this, to understand this, you need intelligence. Okay? If I write CAT, what's the meaning of this? What's this? Come on. CAT is cat. Now what's a cat? You know that, no? Everybody knows. Okay. If I show CAT to a Chinese or maybe Indian who doesn't know English and who is learning English, so that person can say, okay, this is CAT, but he might not know the meaning of CAT. Okay, what's CAT? It's cat, but do you know what's cat? I don't know. So even if you have code in genes, to interpret and to understand the meaning, you need intelligence. And that's called semantics. Geneticists are surprised that a body decodes genetic code. That's okay, that anybody can do. But to understand the meaning, you need intelligence. Where is that intelligence? And that's where our Vedas come in picture. And Vedas say there is consciousness which interprets genetic codes. You getting my point? So genetic code itself gives a hint that there is intelligent being, consciousness and superconsciousness. That's God, which is interpreting. And the third evidence of God is sleep. Now you may not have figured that out, but every day God gives you the evidence of His existence when you sleep, not when you are awake. Can anybody tell this and seminar is over? And you can go back home after eating a feast, that's okay. But can you figure out? This is what all scripture says. God says, I give you the proof of my existence at every second. A wise man can understand, a fool cannot see anything. A fool is busy in his own life, in his own shallow thoughts, in his own superficial needs of this temporary body. But a wise man can see. So that is why it is said in scriptures, entire creation is glory of God. But you should know how to see it. You should know how to interpret it. So every night, God gives you an evidence He exists. Can anybody tell how? Any genius here? I have to go to MIT, Harvard or what? Anyway, even they'll not be able to figure out. So, anybody? How does God gives evidence when you're sleeping? Okay, I'll tell you. This is where Vedas begin. You have heard about Vedas? Vedas? You have heard about Bhagavad Gita? These are scriptures, East Indian scriptures. Now, they don't talk something in here, God is there, you have to accept it, this and that, and if you don't accept, you go to hell. No, it doesn't happen like that. They give you rational thoughts. That is the beauty of Vedic knowledge and Bhagavad Gita. So Vedas begin with this chapter. And they say God gives you an evidence every night. How? Okay. If you close your eyes, okay, just close your eyes, everybody, and I'll ask you something, and you do that. Okay. Now try to forget yourself. Okay, can you do that?
It's hard.
It's hard or it's impossible? Can you forget yourself? If you say you forget yourself, then this means you have not forgotten yourself. You understand the point? If you say I forgot myself, then this means you didn't forget yourself, because you know that you forgot yourself, isn't it? You still have a thought. You can't do that. Even rationally you can't do that. And practically you can't do that. You can't forget yourself even for a millionth of a second. You can't do that. And that is why, people say you do a meditation and make your mind empty. They say no, like make your mind empty. It's not possible. It's logically irrational. Because if your mind is empty, and if you come to know your mind is empty, then at least you have a thought that your mind is empty. Your mind cannot be empty. And if really it becomes empty of all thoughts, you can't come back from meditation. You're dead. You can't come back. It's empty. So there is no thought even of coming back. You are finished. So it's all these are, it doesn't make sense. You cannot forget yourself. Whatever you do, the thought that I exist, I am I, that will always be there within you. Okay? Is it clear? You can't forget yourself, okay? But behold the miracle. And the miracle is when you sleep. When you sleep, you forget yourself. Is it? When you're in deep sleep, you forget yourself. For 6 hours, you're lying on bed. You don't know where is your body. You don't know where is your room. You don't know where are you. You've forgotten your identity. Your identity is erased completely when you sleep. What you cannot do, what is impossible for you when you're conscious, is very easy when you go to sleep. And that's, God says, I am doing that. It's not in your power. It's not in your power. Some superior power is erasing your existence when you're sleeping. In deep sleep, you forget yourself. And that's a miracle. That's what Bhagavad Gita says. Jnanam apohanam cha. Smritir jnanam apohanam cha. There's a full chapter on this. And there's a science behind this. You understood? You are clear? And then you wake up. You have forgotten yourself and then you wake up. Who wakes you up? If you've forgotten yourself, how can you wake up? You've forgotten yourself. Suddenly you wake up and first thing you remember, I am I. I exist. First thing when you open your eyes, oh yeah, I exist. There's a room and I'm there. First thing. Who gives you this consciousness, I exist? That is God, super consciousness. That's working behind that. That's why scripture says there is soul, there is super soul. There is consciousness, there is super consciousness. There is soul and there is God. That's how you figure it out. So sleep is a great evidence. Deep sleep is evidence of existence of some power which is beyond us. And this is how we get hints from science of existence of soul and existence of God. And now what you have to do is, you simply have to read this quotation and then go back home and do some research. This is John Searle, philosopher, University of California, Berkeley. He said, he's a big philosopher. He said, our problem is not that somehow we have failed to come up with a convincing proof of the existence of God, or that the hypothesis of an afterlife remains a serious doubt. It is rather in our deepest reflections We cannot take such opinions seriously due to a scientific worldview. There's a problem with a paradigm. There's a problem with a worldview. There are evidences out there. We are not allowed to think about it. Let me put it like that. We are not allowed to think about it. So please go back, think about this, what I have told you, and thank you very much for coming here and hearing me. Hare Krishna. Okay, so is there any questions or suggestions? And I'll finish. Follow to see. Now you have to follow. That's all. I told you it's a self-evident truth. I can tell you, I can give you hints, you can do some research. Now you should follow. And what we do is, I told you mantra, we chant this mantra, sound. So we use this sound. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. This is, God has many names. It's one of the names of God, Krishna, which means all attractive. We have this information. There is not logical deduction. We have information from scriptures. And we chant this name, chant this mantra, and it helps us to revive our consciousness and our spiritual plane. But as a matter of fact, you should go and read all these things. You should go and read all scriptures, in fact. All scriptures give the same message. Go and have a look. Don't go behind this society, which will actually lead you to a very wrong path. Wrong path in the sense, you don't think about your identity, God and this stuff, and then you're convinced this is our mythology. This is wrong. This is absolutely wrong. Blind after blind, that is said. Don't lead a life like that. Don't lead a shallow life. Understand this. Help others to understand this knowledge. Make yourself happy. Make others happy. That's life all about. Any questions? And then I'll stop here. I'm finished now. Or any suggestions? This is my site and my email. If later you want to contact me, you can always do that. Any scientific questions, or if you do research, you have some doubts, we can always share this knowledge. Okay, have any questions? Otherwise, we'll just end here. No questions. No questions means two things. Either you understood everything or you didn't understand anything. Anyway, that's fine enough. Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna.